The door eased open, and everyone expected a scared young girl to walk in. But what stepped inside wasn't fear, it was intensity. A 12-year-old moved forward, her eyes steady, her hands calm, carrying a silence so heavy even the bailiff shifted uneasily. She didn't hesitate. She didn't blink. She fixed her gaze on Judge Judy and spoke, not shyly, not rudely, but with a kind of honesty so powerful that half the courtroom let out a gasp. Judge Judy paused, not out of anger, but surprise. The girl wasn't defying authority, she was revealing something deeper. In under a minute, her words turned the entire case on its head. And when she stopped speaking, the silence didn't just settle. It vibrated through the room. What she said next would leave everyone stunned. That stillness lingered in the air, thick and electric. As things truly began, the girl stood there, small in size, yet completely composed, while the courtroom struggled to grasp how someone so young could hold such presence. Even Judge Judy, who had witnessed every kind of arrogance, fear, and performance, watched her with rare focus. The girl didn't shrink under that gaze. She didn't fidget or look away like someone expecting punishment. Instead, her chin lifted slightly, a quiet strength often seen in children who've learned to defend themselves without guidance. A soft, uneasy breath came from behind her. Her mother sat at the plaintiff's bench, hands tightly clasped, silently urging her to stay respectful, maybe even quiet. But the girl wasn't there to be polite, she was there to be heard. Judge Judy leaned forward, resting her elbows on the bench, studying the girl as seriously as any adult witness. Her voice came calm and measured, with a hint of curiosity. "Young lady, tell me your name." The girl answered clearly, her voice firm enough to echo against the wood-paneled walls. She didn't rush or stumble. She spoke her name like someone finally telling the truth, after holding it in for too long. A subtle shift moved through the courtroom. A camera operator adjusted focus. Someone in the audience leaned closer. Even the bailiff dropped his neutral act. There was something about this child, something no one had prepared for. Judge Judy didn't waste time. "And why," she asked, "did you step forward today?" The girl drew in a slow, steady breath, choosing courage over comfort. She glanced briefly at the defendant across the aisle. He tried to meet her eyes, but his confidence slipped, like a mask no longer holding. "I stepped forward," she said quietly, "because the adults keep lying." Her words traveled softly, yet sharply, cutting through every rehearsed version of the story. Her mother closed her eyes. The defendant shifted, his jaw tightening. Judge Judy, however, remained completely still. The girl went on, not with anger, but with a truth so raw it made the room feel smaller, as if her voice was pulling the walls inward. She explained how she had watched two adults twist what happened. So much that she barely recognized her own memories in their versions. She spoke about arguments behind closed doors, the kind that teach children things they should never have to learn. "And I'm tired," she added. "I'm tired of pretending I don't know what really happened." Judge Judy's expression sharpened, not toward the girl, but toward the adults who had brought this moment into existence. Her silence carried weight, heavier than words. The girl held her breath, waiting, finally waiting, for someone to recognize what she had been carrying alone. Judge Judy gave a slow nod. Then, in a steady voice, she asked, "What exactly is this truth you're here to tell?" The girl didn't hesitate. She took one quiet breath, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the burden of something held in for far too long. "It started the night they both said they were protecting me." Her words settled into a silence, so delicate even the faint hum of the lights seemed to fade. Judge Judy didn't interrupt. She watched closely, like someone tracking every heartbeat before a critical moment. The defendant leaned forward, gripping the arms of his chair. The mother stiffened, whispering something under her breath, maybe a prayer, maybe regret. But the girl continued, eyes forward, refusing to hide behind either of them. "They were arguing," she said, "not about what really happened, but about what they wanted others to believe happened." A ripple passed through the audience as people shifted, whispering, realizing this wasn't a simple dispute. This was something heavier, something shaped in the quiet corners of a child's life. Judge Judy nodded slightly. "Go on." The girl's voice stayed calm, though her hands tightened just a little, a small crack revealing the pressure beneath. "They talked about what they would say in court, what they wouldn't say, what they'd pretend not to remember. Her eyes flicked toward the defendant, then away. I heard them blaming each other. But they agreed on one thing. She paused briefly. They agreed that I shouldn't speak. Judge Judy's eyebrows rose, not in shock, but in recognition. She had seen this before. Adults pulling at their own versions of innocence, leaving a child caught in between. And why? Judge Judy asked carefully. Do you think they didn't want you to talk? The girl's voice sharpened. Not with anger, but certainty. Because the truth doesn't pick sides. For a moment, the entire courtroom seemed to forget how to breathe. Even the defendant looked uncertain, unsure whether to respond or stay silent. They've been telling different stories about the same night, she continued. And they think I'm just a kid who'll stay confused or quiet. She shook her head slightly. But I'm not confused. And I didn't forget. Her mother finally spoke, barely above a whisper. Sweetheart, please. The girl didn't turn around. It wasn't defiance. It was determination. A child who had reached the point where fear no longer controlled her. Judge Judy's gaze narrowed. What is the part they didn't want you to tell me? The girl swallowed, lifting her chin once more. The slight tremor in her hand disappeared. Her composure returned. That's not even the part you need to hear, she says quietly. The room seems to tighten, like the walls themselves are leaning closer. Judge Judy tilts her head slightly. Then what is? The girl's next words threaten to tear apart everything the adults have tried to hold together. The defendant reacts first, too quickly, too loudly. That's not true, he snaps, pushing himself up from his chair as if stepping forward might give him back control. She's a child. She doesn't understand what she heard. Judge Judy raises one hand without even looking at him. The silence that follows isn't calm. It's a warning. Sit, she says. He sits, but not willingly. The girl watches him steadily, not with anger, but with a kind of tiredness no 12-year-old should carry. She's seen this before. Adults rushing to rewrite her reality before she can even finish telling it. Judge Judy turns back to her. Continue. The girl exhales slowly and resumes. They didn't want me to speak, she says, because if I told the truth, someone would look bad and they both wanted the other one to look worse. Her mother covers her mouth, fingers trembling. Her eyes redden at the edges, silently begging her daughter to stop, or at least soften what's unfolding. But the girl keeps her gaze forward, grounded by something stronger than fear. The defendant lets out a strained laugh, thin and fragile, the kind that cracks instead of convinces. You're twisting things. Kids exaggerate. This time, the girl turns her head slightly toward him. Her expression stays the same, but her voice shifts. Colder, sharper, as if she's done being dismissed. I'm not exaggerating, she says. You are. A ripple moves through the courtroom. Quiet gasps, sharp inhales, people exchanging glances. Even the bailiff freezes mid-step, as if realizing who the most composed person in the room really is. The defendant tries to speak again, but the girl gently cuts in, soft, polite but unmistakable. You told me to stay quiet today. Everything in the room shifts at once. Judge Judy straightens. He told you what? The defendant shakes his head quickly, hands lifting as if he could block the accusation itself. That never happened. She's confused. I never. She is not confused. Judge Judy cuts in, her tone now edged with steel. The girl continues, her voice steady even as her hands begin to fidget for the first time. He said, let me handle this. Kids mess things up when they talk. And then he said I should remember who helps me more. Her mother's eyes fill instantly, guilt spreading across her face like something finally brought into the light. The defendant stumbles over his words. She misunderstood. The girl shakes her head gently. I didn't misunderstand. A brief pause. I memorized it. Judge Judy exhales slowly through her nose, a controlled release that fills the room with something heavier than anger. Certainty. She leans forward, her gaze sharpening with precision, like someone who has just spotted the first real fracture in a solid wall. Did he tell you anything else not to repeat in this courtroom? The girl hesitates. Not out of fear, but thought. Then she glances up in a way that sends a quiet wave through the room. Yes, she says. And you're not going to like it. The pause that follows hangs thick in the air. Judge Judy doesn't rush her. She allows the silence to stretch, letting everyone feel the weight of what's coming. Even the cameras seem to settle, lenses fixed on the girl, as if they sense the moment about to break open. Finally, the girl speaks. He told me that if I said what I saw that night, he would make sure people thought I was lying. The defendant jerks upright. That is not. Stop. Judge Judy's voice cuts through like a blade. The mother hides her face in her hands. The tension in the room deepens, pressing down like gravity, increasing second by second. The girl continues, her voice soft but unwavering. He said kids ruin things, that adults don't get in trouble unless someone stupid talks. And he said if anything went wrong it would be my fault. A chill seems to pass through the courtroom. Several people shake their heads. A woman in the second row presses her hand to her chest. The bailiff stiffens, as if the situation has crossed into something serious. Judge Judy slowly turns her gaze to the defendant, deliberate and focused, like a spotlight narrowing onto its target. You told a 12-year-old child that this would be her fault. He swallows hard. I was frustrated. Things were tense. She took it the wrong way. For the first time, the girl looks directly at him. There's no anger, no fear, only clarity. I understood it exactly the way you said it. Judge Judy doesn't blink. And did you tell her to stay quiet in this courtroom today? He searches for words, any words. But they fall apart before he can form them. I might have told her to let the adult speak. That's normal. It is not normal. Judge Judy cuts in sharply, her tone firm. Not when you're pressuring a child into silence just to control the story. The girl takes a breath, then delivers the detail that cracks the case wide open. You told me to say I didn't see you leave the house that night, she says. But I did. The room freezes, completely. Judge Judy pauses mid-breath. The mother lifts her face from her hands, eyes wide with shock. A low murmur spreads through the courtroom like a ripple. The defendant's composure collapses. That's a lie, he says quickly. I never left, but the girl doesn't falter. You did, at 9:17, she says calmly. You dropped something on the porch. I heard the door. And you came back about 20 minutes later. You smelled like smoke. Judge Judy's expression sharpens instantly. She turns toward the clerk. Ring me the file. Now, the clerk hurries off and returns with a thick folder, placing it in front of her. Judge Judy opens it slowly, already anticipating what she might find. She scans the first page, then the next. Her jaw tightens. Because everything, the timeline, his sworn statement, his entire version of events, depends on one claim that he never left the house. And now a 12-year-old has just dismantled that claim with a single, steady sentence. Judge Judy looks up, her voice low and controlled. Sir, you have lied to this court. But it's not over yet. Her attention shifts back to the girl. Tell me, she says, leaning forward, what exactly did you see him drop on the porch? The question hangs in the air, heavy and unanswered. Judge Judy watches the girl closely, calm and focused, while the rest of the room leans in almost unconsciously. Finally, the girl speaks. It was a piece of paper, she says softly, folded. I thought it was trash at first, until I saw his handwriting on it. A subtle tension flickers through the defendant's posture. Not panic yet, but the beginning of it. His fingers twitch against the armrest. Judge Judy gestures for the file to be moved closer. The folder lands with quiet weight. She opens it again more carefully this time. What kind of paper? She asks. A note, the girl replies. Short, just a few words. The mother looks like she's coming apart, shoulders tight, breathing uneven, her gaze darting between her daughter and the man across the aisle. The defendant lets out a forced laugh, but it falters halfway. A note. That's ridiculous. She's making this up. Judge Judy raises a finger. Do not speak. The command cuts cleanly through the air. The girl continues, her voice steady again. He picked it up quickly. I only saw 3 words, but I remember them. Judge Judy leans closer. Tell me. The girl closes her eyes for a brief moment, replaying the memory. When she opens them, her voice carries the certainty of something she will never forget. It is done. A chill moves through the courtroom. Someone gasps. Another whispers under their breath, trying to make sense of it. The bailiff steps slightly closer, sensing a shift no one wants to name yet. Judge Judy flips through the file more quickly now, pages turning, documents scanned, receipts and statements reviewed, until she suddenly stops, her eyes harden. She lifts a document between her fingers. This is your statement, she says, addressing the defendant, signed under oath. He tries to hold steady, but his breathing gives him away. And according to this, she continues, tapping the page. You stated that you never left the house at any point during that time. He nods too fast. Correct, because I didn't. The girl doesn't even look at him. You did. Judge Judy places the paper flat on the desk, as if presenting the contradiction for everyone to see. And yet she recalls you leaving at a precise time, being gone for a specific period, and returning smelling like smoke. Her tone sharpens further. And now we have a note that reads, "It is done." Or she slides the file aside, her expression no longer curious, but calculating. Sir, she says slowly, if anything in this file contradicts your sworn testimony, you are in very serious trouble. The defendant swallows hard. Your Honor, stop. The single word lands with force. The girl watches silently, steady and composed, as if she's been waiting for this moment for a long time. Judge Judy turns back to her. When you say he smelled like smoke, what kind of smoke? The girl hesitates, just for a second, the first crack in her composure. And when she answers, her words drain the last bit of warmth from the room. Not cigarette smoke, she says quietly, the kind you smell when something is burning. The courtroom goes still. Because now, this is no longer just about a lie. It's something darker. The word burning seems to spread through the room like invisible smoke, slow, creeping, suffocating. No one moves. Not the audience, not the mother, not even the defendant, whose face loses color as if the truth itself is pulling it away. Judge Judy studies the girl carefully, not with doubt, but with a seriousness usually reserved for adults who finally choose to tell the truth. What do you mean by that? She asks softly. The girl clasps her hands together, steadying them. I know the difference, she says. Cigarette smoke is sharp. This wasn't. It smelled burnt, like something used to be whole, and then wasn't anymore. A tremor runs through the mother's shoulders. She presses her knuckles to her lips, as if holding something inside. Fear, guilt, or the realization that her daughter has been carrying far more than anyone realized. The defendant shifts abruptly in his seat. She's exaggerating. Kids don't understand things like that. Judge Judy doesn't even look in his direction. Enough, she snaps, cutting him off instantly. Then her tone softens as she turns back to the child. Did you notice anything else? Anything unusual, anything he was holding? The girl pauses. Not because she's unsure, but because she's choosing her words carefully, like someone who knows what comes next will change everything. After a moment, she nods. Yes, but I didn't understand it until later. Judge Judy leans forward slightly. What was it? The girl's voice drops to almost a whisper. A matchbook, she swallows. He dropped it with the paper, before he realized I was watching. A quiet wave of reaction moves through the courtroom. Sharp breaths, uneasy shifting. The defendant shuts his eyes briefly, but it's long enough to reveal the panic creeping in. Judge Judy slowly turns her head toward him, her focus narrowing. Sir, she says evenly, you left the house. You wrote a note. You returned smelling like something had been burning. And now she says you dropped a matchbook. She pauses, letting the weight of it settle. Is there anything in this file that explains that? He shakes his head too quickly. This is being blown out of proportion. She's just a child. She doesn't understand context. He stops mid-sentence. Because Judge Judy is no longer looking at him. Her attention has shifted to the girl's small backpack resting by her feet. What's in your bag? She asks. The girl looks down, then back up, clearly caught off guard. Just my things. Did you bring anything with you today? Judge Judy continues carefully. That you haven't shown us yet. The silence that follows is heavier than before. Thick, expectant, as if something important has been hiding in plain sight. Slowly, the girl bends down, unzips her backpack, and reaches inside. Her hand lingers for a moment, building tension in every corner of the room. Then she pulls out a folded piece of paper. This, she says quietly, is why I had to speak. Her mother gasps. The defendant stiffens in his seat. Judge Judy gestures toward her. Bring it here. The girl walks forward, each step small but steady. She places the paper into Judge Judy's hand. Judge Judy unfolds it. Her eyes widen, her jaw tightens. For the first time in this case, she looks shaken. Because whatever is written on that page doesn't just contradict the defendant. It exposes the truth he's been trying to hide. She doesn't speak right away. She simply stares at the paper, reading it slowly, like someone absorbing a confession they were never meant to see. The courtroom waits in complete silence. The defendant breaks first. "What is that?" he demands, his voice cracking. "What is she showing you? She shouldn't even have." "Stop talking," Judge Judy says, each word cold and precise. The mother leans forward, tears falling again. Quieter now. Like she's watching something she always feared finally come to light. The girl stands still, hands clasped, her breathing a little faster now but her gaze steady. Judge Judy lifts her eyes toward the defendant. "Do you recognize this handwriting?" He squints, panic creeping across his face. I can't see it from here." "That's not what I asked." He swallows hard. "It looks like mine, but that doesn't mean it is." "It is yours." Judge Judy interrupts. "Your looping letters, the way you press harder at the end of sentences." She taps the bottom line of the page. "This is your writing." The girl closes her eyes briefly, relief and fear mixing together. The mother grips the edge of her seat, steadying herself. "What does it say?" she whispers. Judge Judy turns the paper outward so the courtroom can see. The words are simple, blunt, devastating. "She won't talk." The room erupts. Gasps, murmurs, disbelief spreading like a rising storm. The defendant's face collapses. Whatever composure he had left disappears. That wasn't about her," he stammers. "It was about something else. I was just—" "Do not finish that sentence," Judge Judy warns, her stare icy. "Do not insult this courtroom by pretending that message means anything other than silencing this child." The girl lifts her chin, meeting his eyes with a calm that's both steady and heartbreaking. "You wrote it after telling me not to say anything," she says. "I saw you." The defendant begins to unravel completely. Breathing uneven, blinking too fast, his hands trembling despite his effort to hide them. The mother finally speaks, her voice shaking but fierce. "You tried to scare her into protecting you. You made her carry your lies." His expression crumples. "I didn't mean to, I just didn't want things to get worse." "For who?" Judge Judy fires back. For the first time, he has no answer. Judge Judy exhales slowly, then turns back to the girl. "Is there anything else you haven't told us?" The girl hesitates. Just a brief pause, but heavy with meaning. Then she nods. "Yes, there's one more thing." The room falls into silence again, bracing for what's coming. Everything tightens. The air, the posture of everyone present, the stillness itself. Judge Judy leans forward, her focus absolute. "What is it?" she asks quietly. The girl glances at the defendant, then back at Judge Judy. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across her face, not fear, but doubt about whether she'll be believed. The defendant sees that hesitation and jumps in. "You don't have to say anything," he blurts. "You're confused. You've been pulled into things you don't understand." "Enough." Judge Judy cuts in sharply. Do not say another word while she is speaking. But the interruption has already had an effect. The girl's hands begin to tremble. Her breath catches. She blinks hard, fighting the instinct he's tried to condition into her. That silence keeps adults comfortable. Judge Judy sees it. The struggle, the wavering courage, and she steps in, steady and firm. "You are safe," she says. "You will not be punished for telling the truth. Not here, not today, not ever." The girl shuts her eyes for a brief moment. When she opens them again, the doubt has vanished. "I wasn't staying quiet because I was afraid," she says softly. "I stayed quiet because I thought no one would take a child's word over his." A wave of emotion passes through the room. Some lower their gaze. Others look upset, but no one is untouched. It's the moment a child finally lets go of a burden she carried alone. Judge Judy gives a small nod. "I believe you." Those words shift the atmosphere instantly. The girl releases a slow breath, as if something inside her is both breaking apart and finally healing. Then she shares the detail that turns everything on its head. "He didn't just leave the house that night," she says, her voice stronger now. "He went to the neighbor's shed. I watched from the upstairs window. I saw him light something, I saw the glow. And when he came back, he was carrying something." Judge Judy straightens. What was he carrying? The entire room seems to hold its breath. A small metal box. Shock ripples across the courtroom. The defendant goes still, his face losing color, his story crumbling all at once. Judge Judy fixes her gaze on him, her tone sharp and cold. You never mentioned a box. You never said you left. You never brought up any of this. I didn't do anything? He blurts, his composure finally breaking. Yes, the girl replies quietly. You did. The gavel strikes hard, echoing through the silence. This changes everything, Judge Judy says firmly. The defendant's breathing grows uneven. Sweat forms on his palms. His eyes flick toward the exits, searching for a way out that no longer exists. Because the balance has shifted. The girl is no longer just a quiet observer. She is the turning point, the one whose truth outweighs his lies. Judge Judy folds her hands, studying him carefully. Sir, she says in a low, controlled tone. We are reopening this case from the beginning. Before she can continue, the girl raises her hand slightly, almost hesitant. There's something inside the box, she whispers. Judge Judy pauses. The entire courtroom stills. Even the defendant seems frozen. The words settle heavily in the air. No one speaks. Even the faint hum of the lights feels quieter, as if the room itself is listening. Judge Judy leans forward, fingers interlocked, her voice calm but firm. We'll take this one step at a time. Breathe. Tell me exactly what you saw. The girl inhales slowly through her nose, steady and practiced, like someone used to calming herself alone. When he came back from the shed, she begins. He was holding a metal box, small, dark, like it used to shine, but it was burned. A murmur spreads through the gallery. The defendant shifts in his seat, his control slipping further. His knee shakes, his breathing quickens, his eyes dart around like he's trapped. Judge Judy notices it all. Sir, she says coolly, you may want to compose yourself. You're reacting like someone who recognizes what she's describing. I don't, he snaps. I don't know what she's talking about. But the tremor in his voice gives him away. The mother wipes her eyes again, this time not to hide tears, but to see clearly. I should have listened to her, she whispers. I should have asked what she saw. Regret fills her voice. The girl glances toward her gently. I didn't know if telling you would make things worse. He always said it would. Judge Judy turns sharply to the defendant. You told this child the truth would make things worse. He opens his mouth, but no words come. The answer is already clear. Judge Judy looks back at the girl. You said earlier that adults keep lying. Tell me something. Her voice softens. Who made you feel like the truth didn't matter? The question lingers. For the first time, the girl's expression changes. Not fear, not anger, but something heavier. Tired, worn down. She looks at the floor. Her voice is barely audible. Everyone. Every time they changed the story. Every time they told me to stay quiet. Every time they acted like I didn't see what I saw. The room absorbs her words in silence. Judge Judy's expression softens slightly. You deserve better than that, she says quietly. The defendant lets out a strained breath. She's ruining my life. The gavel strikes again, sharp and final. She is protecting herself. Judge Judy responds firmly. And the only life being destroyed here is the one built on your lies. A low murmur of agreement spreads through the room. The girl lifts her head again, her voice steadier now. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted someone to hear me. Judge Judy nods. I hear you. Then her gaze shifts back to the defendant, eyes narrowing. Now it's your turn to answer for what she witnessed. Before she can go on, the girl speaks again, soft, unprompted, but brave. There's more, I haven't told you yet. The entire room tenses. Judge Judy's voice drops slightly. More from that night. The girl nods, and the weight of what she's about to say hangs in the air, like a storm about to break. Do you think regret should erase what someone did? She asks quietly. Or does the truth still demand consequences no matter what? Her words linger, settling over the courtroom like dust in a beam of light, soft but impossible to ignore. Judge Judy studies her closely, her expression balanced between firmness and quiet understanding, the kind reserved for someone who has carried too much for far too long. Take your time, she says gently. Speak when you're ready. The girl swallows. When she speaks again, her voice is thinner, trembling under the weight she's been holding inside. I didn't say everything, because I learned a long time ago that telling the truth only makes things worse for kids. A hush moves through the room, not from surprise, but from heartbreak. Her mother's face crumples into silent tears, her shoulders folding inward as realization sets in, finally understanding the cost her daughter has paid. The defendant shifts again, but this time it's not just panic, it's recognition. Deep down he knows exactly how he shaped her silence. Judge Judy leans forward. "Who taught you that? Tell the court." The girl hesitates only briefly. "You both did." Her mother flinches as if struck. The defendant goes still. The girl continues, her voice soft but painfully clear. "Every time you lied to each other, or about each other, I saw it. You told different versions of the same story. You changed things to make yourselves look better. And whenever I tried to explain what really happened." She pauses, her voice tightening. "One of you would say, 'That's not what happened.' Or, 'Don't say that.' Or, 'You're confused.'" She looks down again, her voice cracking. "And after a while, I started believing it. I thought maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe I couldn't remember things properly." A heavy breath escapes from someone in the back. Others wipe at their eyes. The mood in the room shifts, from suspicion to sorrow. "I stopped trusting myself," she says shakily. "I stopped speaking up. And the night he left the house, I almost didn't want to believe what I saw. Because if I was wrong, I'd get in trouble, and if I was right." Her voice fades. "Everything would get worse." Judge Judy's tone softens, but there's steel beneath it. "You are not the problem, young lady. The adults who failed you are." The defendant shakes his head quickly. "She's twisting things. She doesn't even know." "Quiet." Judge Judy snaps, cutting him off sharply. "You do not interrupt a child explaining how your actions affected her." The girl wipes a tear from her cheek. Not out of shame, but release. "I'm telling the truth now because I'm done pretending everything is okay." She says, "I'm done protecting people who never protected me." Her mother breaks into quiet sobs, covering her mouth with both hands. Judge Judy nods once, deeply. "And now," she says firmly, "tell us the last thing you saw, the thing inside the metal box." The girl lifts her eyes, a mix of fear and courage pulling the room closer. She opens her mouth, but the words hesitate. Instead, she whispers, "It wasn't something he found, it was something he kept." The courtroom falls completely still, bracing for what comes next. Judge Judy's expression sharpens, not with anger, but with a protective intensity. "Something he kept," she repeats quietly. "Go on." The girl swallows hard, her fingers twisting together as if holding herself steady. She glances at her mother, who is already crying, silently begging for forgiveness she hasn't yet earned. The girl looks back at Judge Judy. "It wasn't scary because of what it was," she says. "It was scary because of who it came from." The defendant's breathing falters. The room freezes. Judge Judy doesn't blink. "Tell me." The girl inhales, gathering what little strength she has left. The metal box had letters inside. A ripple of confusion spreads through the courtroom. "Letters," Judge Judy repeats. The girl nods. "But not new ones, old ones. Ones he kept hidden." The defendant's face drains completely. His hand lifts as if to object, but Judge Judy's glare stops him cold before he can speak. "Go on," she says gently. "They were letters from my mom," the girl says. "Letters she wrote to him years ago. Letters he never gave her. Letters she thought were lost." Her mother gasps sharply, the sound shaking her entire body. "What?" she whispers. "What letters?" The girl's eyes glisten, but she doesn't look away. "You wrote to him after you left the first time. You asked him to explain what happened that night. You said you didn't understand, you wanted answers." The defendant shakes his head frantically. "She's lying!" "Those letters never." But the girl continues, her voice trembling yet firm. "He kept them. All of them. He didn't want you to see them. He didn't want things to be fixed. He didn't want you to leave again. He wanted you confused, scared, and stuck." A wave of horror spreads across the courtroom. Because this isn't just deception. It's manipulation. It's a stolen truth. The mother completely breaks down, crying into her hands. "He told me I never tried," she sobs. "He told me I just disappeared. He lied," the girl says softly. "He lied so you'd stay afraid, so he could stay in control." Judge Judy leans back slightly, letting out a slow breath. Her eyes soften as she looks at the girl, then harden as they shift to the defendant. "You weren't protecting your family," she says quietly, her words cutting deep. You were controlling it. He sinks back into his chair, shaking his head, not in defiance, but as everything finally collapses around him. The man looks like everything inside him is finally giving way, the barrier he built collapsing piece by piece. The girl wipes her face with the back of her hand. That's why I followed him, she says quietly. That's why I remember every detail, because that night, I thought he was going to burn those letters. A gasp moves through the room. Even Judge Judy's expression tightens with surprise. But he didn't. The girl continues. He hid them again, back inside the box in the shed. The Judge Judy leans forward, her voice barely above a whisper. Why? Why keep them all these years? For the first time the girl looks directly at the defendant. No fear, just clarity, because the truth scared him more than lying ever did. Judge Judy takes a slow breath. Young lady, I need you to tell me exactly what those letters said. The girl closes her eyes briefly. When she opens them again, something shifts. The kind of truth that changes everything is about to surface. The air feels heavier now, thick with everything that has already been revealed. She stands there, small and shaking, yet stronger than anyone expected. Judge Judy softens slightly, sensing what's coming next won't be sharp, but deeply painful. Take your time, she says gently. Tell me what was written. The girl nods, looking down as if pulling the memories from somewhere buried deep. When she finally speaks, her voice is fragile, almost a whisper. They weren't angry letters, she says. They weren't mean or scary. Mom wasn't yelling at him. She wasn't blaming him. Her mother begins crying harder, shoulders folding in on themselves. The defendant turns his face away, his jaw tightening until it trembles. She was confused, the girl continues softly. She was sad, she was trying to understand. Judge Judy watches closely, emotion flickering across her face. Go on, she says quietly. She wrote that she didn't understand why he yelled at her, why he blamed her for things she didn't do, why he kept changing what happened and then saying she remembered it wrong. A pause. She wrote that she still loved him. The girl whispers. That she wanted their family to be okay, that she wanted me to be safe. Her mother covers her mouth as a sob escapes. The defendant shuts his eyes, not in denial this time, but something closer to defeat. And she begged him to tell the truth, the girl adds, her voice breaking. A deep silence spreads through the courtroom, heavy and devastating. The echo of someone reaching out for honesty and being met with nothing. Judge Judy nods slowly. And he hid those letters. Wes. Why do you think he kept them hidden? The girl lifts her eyes, shining with pain far beyond her years. Because they showed he was wrong, and he didn't want to be wrong. He didn't want anyone to know he hurt her, or that she asked for help. Her voice falters. He didn't want me to know. Oh, sweetheart. Her mother whispers, trembling with grief. I should have tried harder, I should have. The girl turns slightly, tears falling now despite her effort to stay strong. I didn't tell you, because I thought it would make things worse, she says. If you were hurting because of him, I thought it was my fault. I thought the fighting was because of me. I didn't want to be the reason everything fell apart. Her mother's quiet sob turns raw, filled with years of unspoken pain. Judge Judy steps in, her voice calm but firm. You were never the cause. The adults created this pain. You were simply living through it. The girl wipes her face with shaking fingers. I kept everything inside because it felt safer to stay quiet, she says. But being quiet hurts too. Judge Judy's voice lowers, filled with empathy. Thank you for telling the truth. That took courage. But the girl looks up again, her eyes unsettled. I'm not finished. Judge Judy straightens. What else is there? The girl hesitates, one long, heavy pause. There's something else in the box, she says slowly. Something you're not expecting. The entire courtroom stills. Even the air seems to stop moving. Judge Judy's fingers tap once against the bench before she folds her hands together. Her tone shifts, no longer just gentle, but firm with authority. All right, she says. We'll proceed carefully. You've carried enough for now. Let me take it from here. The girl nods, stepping back slightly, as if finally allowed to breathe. Judge Judy turns her gaze toward the defendant, slow and deliberate, like a storm rolling in. You hid those letters, she says. You lied again and again. You manipulated this child. You forced her into silence. You rewrote events to protect yourself and distort the truth. Each word lands heavier than the last. You have caused more damage than this courtroom should ever have to witness. The defendant's face twists. Part guilt, part panic. It wasn't. I didn't. I was just. You were just what? Judge Judy cuts in sharply, cornered, desperate, hoping no one would ever discover what you kept hidden in that metal box. He flinches. And that reaction says more than any argument ever could. The mother slowly straightens in her seat, wiping her tears, lifting her chin. Something inside her begins to return. Strength she thought she had lost. Her hand tightens protectively around her daughter's shoulder. Judge Judy notices. This child, she says, glancing toward the mother, has shown more honesty in 1 hour than the adults responsible for her have shown in years. Pain crosses the mother's face, but she doesn't look away. You allowed this situation to grow. Judge Judy continues, firm but not cruel. You allowed confusion and silence to take hold. But I see something changing now. Bushy nods toward the girl. Because she spoke, and you finally listened. The mother nods through her tears. Different this time, the kind that come with awakening. Judge Judy turns back to the defendant. You, however, used silence as a weapon, she says coldly. You controlled the narrative, not to protect this child, but to protect yourself. He drops his gaze, shoulders sinking as whatever defenses he had left finally fall away. Judge Judy picks up a pen, tapping it once against the desk. Depending on what else is in that metal box, she says, you may be facing consequences beyond this courtroom. Then her tone softens slightly as she looks back at the girl. You deserve safety, stability, and honesty. Then she turns toward the mother. And she deserves a parent who stands beside her, not one who hides behind her. At last, she faces the defendant. You're about to lose control of this story for good. It's no longer yours to twist. He swallows, his voice barely there. What happens now? Judge Judy draws in a slow breath, preparing to respond. But the girl steps forward again, her voice trembling, yet steady. I can show you what's inside the box. Judge Judy pauses, eyes widening slightly. Right now? The girl nods. A quiet tension spreads through the courtroom, because whatever sits inside that metal box will decide everything that follows. The room falls completely still as the girl places the small metal box onto the bench. It's no bigger than her hands, its edges rusted, its corners darkened with soot, like something that nearly disappeared in a fire. Every eye locks onto it. The silence feels heavy, almost pressing down on everyone. Judge Judy adjusts her glasses, not out of need, but with care. Step back, sweetheart, she says gently. The girl obeys, moving back toward her mother, who wraps an arm around her protectively. Something long overdue. Judge Judy rests her hand on the lid, hesitating for a moment. This box holds evidence, she says. But more than that, it holds answers that have been avoided for years. The defendant shakes his head quickly. It's not what she thinks. Sit. Judge Judy commands sharply. He drops back into his chair, sweat forming across his forehead, his breathing uneven. His composure unravels piece by piece. Judge Judy opens the box. Inside are fragments of a story he never wanted revealed. Old letters, folded and worn, yellowed with time and smoke. A photograph, its corner burned and brittle. A small ribbon, faded and unevenly tied. And beneath it all a handmade card, in a child's handwriting. Please stop fighting. I love you both. A collective gasp fills the room. The girl covers her mouth as tears spill over. She recognizes it instantly. Her mother's legs give out slightly as she sinks into her seat. Judge Judy's expression shifts, not shock, but a deep, quiet sorrow. This card, she says softly, lifting it. You made this. The girl nods, struggling to breathe. I made it when I was 7. I thought if I did something nice, they would stop arguing. The defendant closes his eyes, the pain finally catching up with him. Judge Judy speaks slowly, each word deliberate. He didn't keep this out of love. He kept it for control. Because this proves the conflict didn't start with your mother, it existed long before you could even understand it. The mother shakes her head, crying. I didn't know he kept that. I would never have let her think. You didn't know. Judge Judy replies, calm but firm. But now you do. The truth settles over the courtroom, undeniable. Judge Judy places the card down and looks at the defendant. This is years of emotional manipulation, she says. Control disguised as concern, a pattern that has harmed not just one adult, but a child who trusted you. He breaks, tears fall freely now, his shoulders shaking. I didn't mean to hurt her. Judge Judy's voice sharpens. But you did. She lifts her gavel slightly, just enough to signal what's coming. Before I make my ruling, she says, each of you will have one final opportunity to speak. The mother steps forward, her voice unsteady as she faces everything she avoided. The defendant grips the table tightly, bracing himself. Judge Judy turns to the girl last. Would you like to say anything before I decide? The child raises her head. Her eyes are red, but clear. The entire courtroom leans in, knowing her words will shape what happens next. She takes a slow breath. I don't want revenge, she says quietly. I just want the truth to matter. Her mother presses a hand to her chest as fresh tears fall. The defendant lowers his head, the weight of everything finally too much to carry. Judge Judy nods slowly. Young lady, because you spoke honestly today, clearly, bravely, and without anger. You've done more than affect this case. You've changed your future. She turns to the mother. You will now have primary responsibility for your child's emotional and physical well-being. That means counseling, structure, open communication, and no more secrets. Her tone remains firm. You allowed silence to grow, but today, you chose to break it. I expect that strength to continue. The mother nods through tears. I will, I promise. Judge Judy then faces the defendant, her voice turning cold. A's for you. He looks up, desperate, knowing what's coming. You distorted the truth. You concealed evidence. You silenced a child. You controlled the narrative. Not to protect her, but to protect yourself. He shakes his head weakly. I didn't mean. Intent doesn't matter. Judge Judy interrupts. Not when the harm is this serious. Silence fills the room. You will have no unsupervised contact with this child until you complete counseling, anger management, and demonstrate consistent honesty and accountability. She leans forward slightly, her voice firm as stone. And understand this. If any further manipulation or intimidation occurs, I will ensure this matter is escalated to the proper authorities. His face collapses, the last traces of denial fading into regret. Too late. Judge Judy looks back at the girl, her tone soft again. You were never the problem, she says gently. You were the one pointing everyone toward the truth. And today, you made that truth impossible to ignore. A tear slides down the girl's cheek. But this one feels different, lighter. Judge Judy raises the gavel. This courtroom stands with you, she says. And from this moment on your childhood begins again, without fear. The gavel strikes once, echoing like a promise. The mother pulls her daughter into an embrace. This time protective, steady, the way it should have been all along. The defendant wipes his face, watching them, knowing the truth now carries consequences he cannot undo. Judge Judy gathers her files, then pauses, looking at the child one last time. You reminded everyone here, she says quietly. That honesty isn't loud, it's brave. The girl nods, holding her mother's hand, and as they walk out together, no longer divided by secrets, the air feels lighter, as if something heavy has finally lifted. Because in the end, arrogance falls apart, truth rises, and even a child can begin to rebuild what others have broken. With nothing but courage and her voice.